Okay, good morning. Here we are, day 4, where I'm going to be talking today about poor focus or the lack of concentration. The first thing I want to identify is this is something that happens irrelevant of where you are in your status, whatever level, whether you're a good club athlete or whether you're competing in the next Olympics. This is something that is quite normal and experienced of people of all levels. So if you're lacking focus or you're not concentrated in delivering as well as you have in the past, then the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is give yourself a break. You are normal. This is a normal cycle for you to go through. And releasing any of that expectation over self, what you should find is that the attitude that you have or the state that you have in the present moment is tapered off slightly. So if you're lacking poor focus at the moment, then just allow yourself to realign yourself with that legacy statement that I speak so much about in some of my other videos, and certainly another thing that I'm going to cover later on in this series. But realign yourself with the legacy statement, the purpose behind the actions or the intention behind why you're doing what you're doing. Now, there is mental fatigue, there is physical fatigue. There are times where you need to incorporate recovery, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally into your training strategy. That is where most people fall foul. They incorporate some time where they can rest themselves, take themselves to the beach and just recover, or take themselves for a massage. And what they fail to do is give themselves permission to rest mentally and emotionally. Now, the mental strains of competing at high performance levels does have an effect, especially if you're a part-time athlete or where you're running a business, being a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, or you have any other responsibilities. You're going to be pulled in all directions. Again, that's perfectly normal to experience any slight time of lack of focus, poor focus, or the lack of concentration over your training. What I would invite you to do over the next 30 days is perhaps just map out some of the activities that you're doing on a daily basis. See on a hierarchy of what's important to you. Remove perhaps if you have 10 on the list of things to do, I want you to divide them into must-dos or large items, of which there's no more than 3 on there. And then you can have between 3 and 5 smaller items that need completing in the day. Now, by doing that, what you're going to do is bring yourself back into a state of focus, because you're going to be able to complete those items on the list. You're going to be able to complete all of the aspects that work towards improving and working towards a better version of self in alignment with your legacy statement. Poor focus and lack of concentration comes of one of 2 things. First thing is what I've mentioned already. You've not given yourself the opportunity to rest. You're overloading the mind. The mind's fatigued. You've worn it out. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is to schedule in your diary some time to take some time out to rest, not just the body, but also the mind. That means getting away from technology in the majority of circumstances. I find it crazy nowadays that you can be anywhere at any time of the day and someone can get hold of you. Most of us sleep with a mobile device next to our bed. Most of us have a laptop or a palm device or even a tablet with them 24 hours a day, certainly within the wakened day. I'm going to invite you to do, as I said, 1 or 2 things. First thing is remove yourself from technology, from that world, from that environment, just for a period of time, pre-scheduled, so it doesn't have to overrun throughout the week for you to just disconnect with the outside world. In doing so, what I'm sure you're going to experience is a better rest, where you're not connected, where you don't have commitment. But then also what I'm going to invite you to do is just pop to the future version of self, and see how that initial goal, that initial aspiration, that initial legacy statement that you've set yourself, the intention, the purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing has changed. Have you now taken a shift in what you want and you're not working towards it? Have you taken a slight detour? Do you need to get yourself back on the rails, work out a reason why this may have happened, perhaps even adjust the end goal, the end result? Have you been working for the last 10 years towards something that's not actually in true alignment with where you want to be? Are you facing these resistances? Are you lacking any focus or concentration because you're working on something that isn't as important as it was once before? So that's what I'm going to invite you to do over the next 30 days, over the next 24 hours, is just work out what you're doing, where you're going. Is it in alignment with what you're doing on a daily basis? Are you trying to put a square peg in a round hole? Are you waking up in the morning and lacking the concentration or focus because you're doing something that you don't want to do? Then work out if that is the case, then what you can do to make the shift as quickly as possible and realign yourself with that future version of self that supports the daily actions, the daily intentions, so that you're waking up in the morning excited about what you're going to be able to deliver that day. Again, based on 3 major and between 3 and 5 minor tasks. Any more than that, then you're going to be overloaded. You're going to fatigue the mind anyway. And then just perhaps map your week out for the next 7 days. Map your week out. See how that week looks. Chunk it into 15 minutes. Again, this is a really useful exercise that I've done with a lot of athletes over the last 6 to 8 months, certainly leading into the Olympics, the past Olympics, the Rios, utilizing every 15 minutes in the day to a purpose, to an intention. And it doesn't all have to be driven based on who you want to be or become. It can be 15 minutes out to grab a coffee on the way to work or on the way to training. It doesn't matter what is included within that, but just understand how your day's mapped out, how you're utilizing your time efficiently and effectively, and whether that at the moment is in alignment to that future version of self, that goal, that legacy, that intention. So that's it for today. Poor focus or concentration is based on an element of misalignment. Get yourself realigned, understand how you're spending your time over the next 7 days, and map out into 15-minute chunks. See perhaps if you're misaligned based on any shifts and changes to that future version of self. Perhaps you've become a parent and your priorities have changed. Perhaps you've been promoted at work and that requires more time, more commitment, and you can't give it to your fitness. Or perhaps you want to focus more on fitness and you're losing concentration at work, and that's causing a string on effects. Map out the next 7 days, how you're spending it in 15-minute chunks. Have a look at the future version of yourself. Bring yourself back to the present moment and see what changes you need to make sure you're realigned. That's it from me today. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to hit the subscribe button. More coming over the next 30 or 25 days.